Paul Bernardo was one of the world's most infamous serial killers. He would have help from his wife, Carla Homolka, who would lure, torture, and record the victims, while he would take care of the rest. Their reign of terror over Canada started in May of 1987, and over the period of time went up to 19 victims, all aged between 15 and 21 years old. This included the gruesome of 3 schoolgirls, Tammy Homolka, Leslie Mahaffey, and Kristen French, in a private conversation with his lawyer while serving his life sentence. Paul also confessed to assaulting another 10 women in the 1980s. Paul's conversations with Anthony Bryant, his attorney at the time, provide valid insight about Elizabeth Bain, today's victim. Paul, also known as the Scarborough Rapist, was brought up by lawyers as the person responsible for the crimes against Elizabeth during an appeal retrial in 2004. The initial trial in 1990 convicted Robert Baltovich, the boyfriend of Elizabeth. Paul had been active in Elizabeth's neighborhood, where he had committed a series of assaults. Elizabeth fits Paul's M.O., making him a suspect.
And seated to my right, if you could just identify yourself.
Paul Jason Teal, a.k.a. Paul Bernardo.
And again, my name is Brad Hoover, and today is June the 7th, 2007. Mr. Teal, the reason that we're here today is to speak to you in regards to a couple of matters. First of all, before we start, I just want you to make sure that you're aware that what we say is being videotaped here.
Yeah.
I'm just going to start this audio tape. I forgot to do that.
Paul's case gained popularity worldwide. Psychologists from all over the world wanted to profile him. All attempts proved him to be a clinical psychopath. They used the Hare Psychopathy Checklist, or PCL-R, where he scored a 35 out of 40. Many of these 35 traits were easily visible, and also noticed during his interrogations and confessions, where his nonchalant demeanor came across as weird and disturbing. Dominance is one of the problematic traits noticed in Paul. We also witness this as we see Agent Brad Hoover's questions are not treated with the appropriate seriousness. This theme of dominance is established later in this video as one of the crucial themes behind his attacks.
Just started this audio tape here. We started the interview at 2:05 p.m. My name is Detective Brad Hoover. Paul, you're not presently being given a caution or anything, and I want you to understand that what you're saying to us today is voluntary. It means if you don't want to talk to us, you don't have to. Your counsel is present, and if you need to speak to him, you certainly can. But I just want to make sure that you understand that what you're saying here is voluntary, and that we're interviewing you as a potential witness. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Just a little bit of background about the first time we met back last year in April of 2006. That was in regards to a letter that you had sent through the Attorney General's office and filtered down to my office in regards to some admissions that you made about some that you had committed. I'm here to tell you that I have concluded that investigation, and that there have been 2 offenses that I have been able to identify, and with the information that you provided to me at that time, was able to conclude those matters as having been committed by yourself. So for that, I thank you for that information.
Sorry, you've identified
the offense. No. I have identified the offense that you were talking about, and based on that information, I was able to conclude those cases that actually provided enough information that I was satisfied that you were the person that committed those offenses.
Okay, now what about,
sense?
Does it make sense? What about ones that you thought that I came forward with and maybe thought that I didn't do it? Was there any of those?
There was none that I thought that you didn't do. There was some that I didn't have enough information to either identify the offense because you were unable to provide enough details at that time, or they may not have ever been reported to the police. As you said when we spoke, some of them were, we'll call them minor type offenses, but offenses that may not have been reported to the police.
Okay, I turned on the TV, I waited for Peel Regional to come by. September rolls around, they make a public announcement, it's written on my file here that I lied to police and I did not commit the crimes that I said I committed on the offenses in Peel Regional.
Paul is a perfect example of a narcissist. We notice that he is most affected by being called a liar. A serial killer would always claim his victims. They all have their own reasons for it. But it boils down to pride. As we see Paul adding to his list of victims as his interrogation goes on. At this point, he doesn't even mind if his sentence is harsher. He wants his acts to be known.
I have spoken to Peel Region, and they have told me that they don't have enough information at this point to identify anything that you've, the letter that was sent to the police, through to the police, wasn't specific enough to identify any offenses. Now, that's something that we can talk about sort of following this interview. If you want to get into that, we can talk about that.
Well, I've been sitting with this for years, and it's written on my file, and it makes me seem like, oh, he's just this crazy. You guys love doing that. I'm this crazy psychopathic liar. Why was that statement issued? Why didn't they come in and talk to me if they didn't have enough information? We were waiting on that tape. You play that tape back. I asked you guys if Peel Regional were going to come in. I sat there month after month after month. No one came. I turned on the TV in September. Peel declared that Paul Bernardo was this crazy liar to police. What's the fundamental problem here?
Well,
I know. I mean, justice the Canadian way, and no one comes in, and now you guys are saying that you didn't have enough information.
Well, I can't answer for them specifically as to what they did or didn't do. I can tell you that because they're a separate police department, I don't have any control over what investigation that they did do. I can tell you that I have spoken with an investigator in Peel Region, and they have told me that at this point they don't have enough information to move forward. They haven't been able to identify any offense that was specifically talked about.
Boldness, another trait exhibited by Paul. We notice Paul's attempt to establish his dominance. He deliberately tries not to look at the agent when he is being asked questions, signaling disinterest, while also expressing his disagreement with the agent when he does not hear what he wants to the point that the conversation is completely hijacked by Paul. He established himself as the authority figure, even though he is on the sad end of the interrogation table.
That statement you're giving me is much different from the public statement they said, which said I was a liar.
Okay, well, I don't.
There's 90 days, and they didn't come in. If they didn't have enough information, why don't you come in and get the information? I mean, either I'm lying or I'm not lying. And this goes to the crux of this argument. Either I'm a liar to you, I'm a liar to you right now with everything, like I did to Peel Regional, according to their story, or I'm not. And, I'm not going to sit here, come voluntarily and have people come. You guys ban me from the press, you roll your stories over, and you constantly say that I'm a liar. I made mistakes 17 years ago. Said, okay, fine, I did. But now we're talking about today, and you're not going to roll forward that I'm some psychopathic liar sitting in jail claiming other people's responsibilities for other crimes. This is a total cross-examination point. You want to start this thing? Lockyear's going to grab a hold of it and say, well, he lied about other crimes. He's a crazy liar. Why didn't you guys resolve this?
We mentioned earlier that Paul hates being called a liar. However, there are instances where we notice him lying, establishing another trait of being a pathological liar. Some of Paul's statements can only be completely understood with full context. For instance, Paul mentioned a mistake, which could be interpreted as him referring to his crimes as a mistake. But no, given full context, you would realize that he was in fact talking about a lie he told the police in an interrogation 17 years ago.
And again, I can't answer for what Peel Region did or didn't do.
Jurisdictionally, we're kind of bound as to what takes place.
But still, the good guys, the bad guys. You know what I mean? You're on the same team.
What just happened? Was this Paul's first interaction with a female detective? His tone shifts. He's not trying to assert dominance anymore, but is trying to get her attention.
Yes, we are. But as far as us investigating matters that take place outside of the actual Toronto proper, that's why Peel Region has their police service. And like Detective Hoover said, we can't answer as to what they did with their investigations or the issues that they were looking at that transpired out in their area, and we really can't speak to that. Now, whether that's something you wish to have your counsel deal with them on, and that's something else. But unfortunately, there wasn't a lot that Detective Hoover and I could do in regards to those things. So,
well,
that's it leaves you
they
a bit
were
of a
watching
loss
this
right
thing, and they should subpoena these guys from Peel Regional. They can bring in all the facts to show just where I lied if I'm a liar. That's what I say to do, because either I'm a liar or I'm not a liar, and I'm not a liar. But you guys are trying to paint me as one. The public, according to the public, they turned on the TV in September of last year, and I was this crazy liar. That's what the TV reported, and not only did they report it there, they wrote it on my file. I've got it great myself. Paul Bernardo, Peel Regional said Paul Bernardo lied to police about crimes he didn't commit. Said he did.
Okay.
I mean, that's just awful. I mean, come on.
Okay.
Enough manipulation. You know what I mean? Either you tell the truth or don't. Otherwise, the whole purpose of any interview is just stupid.
He maintains eye contact with her and addresses her appropriately. His tone is gentler. His behavior is the exact opposite to how he was with the other agents and detectives. As soon as the conversation shifts back to Agent Hoover, Paul's rough tone and harsh mannerisms are back.
Because if I'm this crazy liar, I'll be just sitting here lying to you about everything, right? Right? I mean, why wouldn't I? I'm just this crazy liar.
Okay, and then again, I don't know exactly what was said by Peel Region, and I'm not here to answer to what they said. So either,
you know, it's one thing. You know, I'm a human being, and to say that I'm a dangerous offender and raping and killing and all this stuff, it's fine. I mean, for publicity, get that, tough on crime, get that back at. But when you go to a certain point of line, it just, I mean, it affects me totally. I made mistakes a long time ago. But don't say that today about me, because then we're lying and then we got a big problem, because I'm looking at you and you're the bad guys, because I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not telling the truth, and you guys are walking around issuing statements that I lied here, I lied there.
Another trait to be established here is antisocial. His crimes, justification, and his normalization of his crimes, accepting his heinous acts as mistakes, show that he's been out of touch from reality, and perhaps from humanity as well.
Those are statements that were issued by Detective Hoover or myself.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, it's Attorney General who sent you guys down here. He's fighting the case. He's taking this ball pitch back, right? So it's really it's the same organization. There's an Attorney General I see on TV talking about it.
But this is a separate matter from what those issues were.
But it's still the Attorney General's office.
Yeah, it very well be, but so we can't speak to anything that Peel Regional does or statements that they release out to the media because they have.
It's the same thing. If I'm a liar, take the facts that they have. They come down and talk to me. Any cross-examined, any defense lawyer, call them up and show me where I'm lying, because you're not going to find it. Maybe there's a minor mistake here and there. I think I had one thing about some tree driveway below trees where, memory will go over time. But to say that is just ridiculous.
Another interesting trait that we notice is that he considers himself to be very attractive. His belief is also boosted by the media, as they, at moments, are seen to be referring to him and Carla as the Ken and Barbie killers. His confidence in his looks brings out the arrogance that we notice in his behavior. His efforts to smooth-talk the constables, more importantly, had been able to successfully charm his victims. As you would see, his charm has its limits, and we see his confidence break.
Yes, I'll go. I wouldn't ask for nobody. Nobody from the Attorney General's went down there. Nobody cared. Again, it's the same. I know, but it's the same problem, because you're making me out to be a huge liar. And this is a problem.
Well, I don't have any doubt as to what you told us before. The facts that I can verify, I believe are true, and from what you told me, you haven't told me any lies yet, so I have no personal reason to believe that you're lying.
Exactly.
So again,
exactly. So, but this was different story than I've got on my file, and
again, I don't know what's in your file because I'm not privy to that information or what's there or what's not there. I'm just telling you from my perspective. And from an investigative perspective, into what I've looked into, to what admissions you made back in April last year, to me, I'm satisfied. I've done what I can do as far as the investigation. If you'd like to provide me with more information about the specific occurrences that occurred in Peel region, then we can talk about that after the focus of what we're here for today.
We notice Paul tries to discredit Carla Homolka's testimony, even after his conviction. He truly believed that her testimony in court tainted his image. His image was very important to him, a trait seen in many serial killers. Probably the only reason he was open to disclosing information in the interrogation was to bring out his version of events and his side of the story. He had to rebuild his image, and he knew that people would be watching, so he performed an act, hoping for an applause. All he got was perhaps rotten tomatoes.
But it is part of the focus.
Well, it is. It is and it isn't. I mean,
I think
obviously, directly, we're here today to deal with the Balkovich matter that you're aware of.
but dealing with me, and it comes down to credibility.
Well, it comes down to credibility. It absolutely does, and that's what we're here to talk about today. And so let's deal with that, and then we can deal with the other stuff afterwards. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead. Just making my point on it because it's going to have to be addressed sometime.
Absolutely, it will.
And it should have been. I mean, we dealt with that a year and a bit ago. So,
Yeah.
Well, not quite a year, actually.
A little over a year ago.
We noticed that Hoover is the only one to make headway with Paul. There are a couple of reasons for that, mainly because Hoover addressed Paul's concerns, or at least pretended to. Of course, we can't leave out the fact that Paul tries to gain his credibility back with this conversation with Hoover. Paul's been confirming facts that prove his side of the story.
I have some questions that were given to me to ask you in relation to the Balkovich matter, Robert Balkovich matter. Before we do that, I just want to say you understand obviously the importance of telling the truth and the consequences potentially of someone who lies to the police and not telling the truth.
I think we discovered that. Actually, I was referring, you guys tell the truth.
Right.
You need to understand the importance of telling the truth. Saying this was a mistake by Agent Hoover, as we then see Paul reacting to this with a loud, sarcastic laugh to express disconnect from the claim. This would set the interrogation back quite a bit. A lot of the rapport that was built would now go down the drain.
Okay, so we're aware of that. And in this matter, I believe that you've had some conversation with your counsel in regards to it. And there has been some discussion about polygraph testing in this matter. Is that true or not true? Do you recall that?
We start noticing a change in Paul's behavior. He's seen seeking validation for every time he is able to outsmart or fool the interrogators. Not just anyone's validation. He wanted the validation of the female detective. We notice his disappointment once he stops getting any reaction out of her. Another thing to note is that he's been trying to charm the detective as he would have tried doing to many of his victims. It's hard to imagine what the detective would be going through, being in the same room with such a criminal.
You're opening up cans of worms everywhere.
I'm just asking you a specific question.
You know, that goes back to you guys polygraphed everyone with the Camaro. You didn't polygraph Carla. And in 2 years since, have you guys gone down there and asked her? Have you settled the matter with it? Because you could say I lied or whatever on polygraph, but have you asked her? Because it comes down to a lot of that issue.
Okay.
You know, I mean, have you asked her? Has the Attorney General gone down there?
Okay, I don't know. Let me tell you a little bit. My involvement with this overall investigation of the Balkovich is very limited. The only knowledge that I have is as to what investigation has been done or hasn't been done is specifically what's related to the conversations I've had about this interview here today. Okay. What other witnesses there are, I don't know.
In answer to your question, I don't want to go off on tangents, but all these issues are relevant. I know you think they are, but they are. In answer to your question, is we had some discussion on it, but when Corcoran from the OPP came down before Carla was released, right. I told him, I'd be willing to take a polygraph on anything and everything. Would you, in turn, are you going to go down before you release Carla? Just to ask her. She's not going to take it. She's going to fail on all these issues. Did her hand cause death? Did blah, blah, blah. Did this Tammy happen in July? Was a girl in January actually kidnapped and not somebody I picked up at a bar that she tried to roll over? And all these other issues, all relevant. And so, and then I addressed it to you guys when you came back again last year. I said, yeah, I'll take a polygraph on anything because I'm not telling a lie on the thing. Again, I asked the question, have you guys gone down or, I know Carla's free now. I'm not in the business of putting her in jail. It's not my thing. But my point was, did you ask her the question? Just so we get the story straight. I mean, if she refuses, well, there's a reason why she's refusing. And again, you guys couldn't provide the answer. And now, almost a year later, again, you don't provide the answer. So, I mean, I don't know what you're asking me. You're asking me to take a polygraph when you aren't willing to ask her?
Well, again, this my part of this investigation is limited to what we're saying here today. So the details of all of what other witnesses may or may not have been asked or done, I don't know, and as a potential witness, I'm not allowed to tell you what other people have done. So that I have to sort of be careful about the way that it's answered, or even what you think my answer might be.
Yeah, no, I just wanted for the record that I gave you good information, which you guys could have, independent of me, could have verified my story or not.
Right.
And whether you guys do or do not is your business. Like I said, I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not here to point finger at anyone. But I showed you where to go. So if you guys don't do that, it's your business. But, you know, to me, it's like, if you didn't, why didn't you? If you want to know the truth about things.
Right.
So
I understand that. I understand what you're saying. So what we're here to talk about today, obviously know that this statement may be used in court or maybe presented to court as a voluntary statement.
Yeah.
Okay. A polygraph obviously is not something that's court admissible. And I'm not sure if you're aware of that or not, but
yeah,
it's not used in court. Okay. So the crux of what we're here to talk about is that it has been suggested that in the continuing case of the disappearance of Elizabeth Bain and the charge of murder against Robert Baltovich, that you are the alternative suspect, or an alternative suspect. Are you aware of that?
yeah.
We also come to notice that Paul lacks empathy, a common trait amongst psychopaths. It's quite possible he added Elizabeth's name to gain popularity. Regardless, it's surprising to see a bland reaction when you talk about a case like this.
Did you kill Elizabeth Bain on June the 19th, 1990?
Well, it's a loaded question. I mean, are we going to go back and go through the time sequence of what happened in my life? I mean, I could just give a yes or no answer, but, you know, there's a lot of issues about that.
Right.
You know, the Carlos and my role, who did what, where, when. This is why I said, did you guys, go down there to get a polygraph to see if she was telling the truth? Like, why didn't Bevan do it in the first place? I mean, he's polygraphing everyone with a Camaro. Why would he make a deal with someone and not give them a polygraph? It's incomprehensible to me. Because now I'm sitting, my file says her version, and it's a lie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not making frivolous points here. I mean, and now you're asking me, after you said Peel Regional said I'm lying about this, and then you're saying I'm lying about my profile, you're saying I'm lying if I'm better or not. Now you're saying, hey, did you kill this person? I mean, well, you're saying I'm lying here, here, and here. I could say, no, I didn't. But I mean, you already said I'm lying here with Peel. You're saying,
okay, I'm not saying anything about who's lying. I'm simply
and I've given you directions to go to find the truth.
Right.
And no one's done that.
It should be evident by now that the only reason Paul is here is to rebuild his image as an upstanding and honest criminal. We see him avoiding direct questions, a tactic used only to consume time and misdirect and confuse the interrogators. It also gives him more opportunities to talk about himself and mend his image. But this tactic is soon noticed by the interrogators, and it happens to work against him.
And again, I've told you that I've done investigations on information that you've told me, and as a result of that information, I've been able to verify in my mind where you told me the truth. So if Peel Region is lying about you or someone else is lying about you, I have no control over that, or no.
It goes right to credibility.
Well, absolutely it does, and that's, I guess, the easy way that is to, if we can go through, we'll answer the questions. And yes, I hope to be able to go through some timeline to identify where you were, what you were doing specifically in relation to this case.
Anyways, I know I'm giving you guys a hard time being argumentative about certain things, but I mean, really, I'm a human being, and when you guys do all these things, I've got to. Anyways, I'll try and truncate it a little bit more. But anyways, the answer to that is no. But the 800-pound gorilla in the room that's a life 25 sentence. You know, it really comes down to credibility, and not only credibility, but then again, timeline. I mean, between what Carlos and my roles were respectively, and this and that. The answer is no to that question. Okay.
He finally denies killing Elizabeth. This proves the motive behind this was to mislead the interrogators and gain as much popularity as possible from the footage. Paul did gain popularity amongst people, but we here at Call to Action see through the facade and point it out if you don't.
Did you have anything to do with her disappearance?
No.
Did you know Elizabeth Bain?
Not that I know of.
Had you ever met her?
I'm going to answer that with I don't remember, because if I did or I didn't, I don't remember. But I know an ex-girlfriend tried to say it, but I guess I don't remember.
You obviously are aware of her disappearance.
Sorry.
Do you recall when you became aware of this?
Because I can recollect this afterwards. Didn't follow me as much.
The date, obviously, June the 19th, 1990 was the day.
But you know, other than that, I don't remember. You know, maybe I heard about it before, but I can't recall if I did or not. But I remember in jail, I had newspapers after that fact. That's not something else.
Okay. We'll sort of get into that a little bit when you. I hope to go through a bit of a timeline with you as to some things that may jog your memory as to
We're talking.
back in that. I mean, if you asked me what I was doing 3 weeks ago on Tuesday, I probably couldn't tell you unless you put some reference to it. So we'll hopefully be able to do that. And again, obviously, June the 19th, 1990, do you know what you were doing that day?
I don't know.
I have a document here in front of me that references some points in time around the June of 1990 period from police investigation. This is what indicates you may have been involved with, or may have certain things that you may have done. I'd like to go through a couple of them that sort of assist you in remembering what you were doing back in 1990. The first part of June 1990, actually June the 1st, Carla had a doctor's appointment where she was complaining of pains in her right side. Perhaps she had something to do with a rabies shot. Does that ring any bells?
No.
In the first part of June, you had a Nissan 240 SX, is that correct?
Yeah.
You were making several trips into the United States, June 2nd, June 3rd, June 10th, June 16th. I think at that point you were involved with cigarette smuggling and things like that, from what I recall. Someone said no.
No, that would be. No, that wasn't until after we did. So.
Okay. So, making several trips to the States within a couple of days, that's something.
When we started the relationship, we were going over all the time, so just for personal reasons. So.
Okay. On June the 16th, you shopped at Rough Hewen. Is that in the Niagara Falls, United States? Does that store sound familiar to you?
Yeah, it sounds familiar. I have no idea those dates, but
Okay.
you got a receipt.
I think there must be a receipt there. And again, I don't have all the details. I'm just going by what's on the sheet of paper. A black expandable binder. Is that?
I think. Can't recall 100%, but
Okay. That would have been around the same time. That was about a week prior to if you purchased one of those Elizabeth Bain one.
I have no idea when I purchased it. I just recall I had something like that, like an accordion binder.
Okay. June the 16th, again, this has been the same day in St. Catharines, you attended a movie, Back to the Future 3. Do you recall when that movie came out?
I did.
No. There's a receipt for a cell phone purchased at a Radio Shack at the Town and Country Mall at 6366 Yonge Street. You remember buying a cell phone?
I know I bought a cell phone around that time because when I declared bankruptcy, I handed my other one in. And I bought the Radio Shack. I don't know the dates. I know whatever.
That would have been the day after Elizabeth Bain went missing. Do you remember anything you were involved with around that time? You say you were going bankrupt, so what type of activity you were involved in sort of on a day-to-day basis?
The only thing I remember from bankruptcies that happened around a couple days before the second composite came up with. That was, if I recollect correctly, it was 2 days before I filed for that. But I couldn't even tell you that date. I just know it was sometime in What day did you say that was? June
the 16th of 1990.
When was that second? The one with the cops? Was it 24th, 20th? What date did that?
There was a in May of 1990.
Is that the opposite one?
I'm thinking that it is, but it doesn't say that specifically here. But shortly after that,
My timeline's off.
the end of June of 1990, that was the original, when someone identified you potentially as a Scarborough Rapist, a banker.
When was that? The end of
That was June 28th of 1990.
Even after spending more than a decade in a correctional facility, Paul barely shows any signs of remorse. He did have ample amount of time on his hands to look back, understand, and improve. But he still feels the same way about his victims as he did when he was committing the crimes.
Lori Homolka's 19th birthday was June the 22nd, 1990. Do you recall her 19th birthday?
I know it was around that time, but I don't specifically recall that birthday.
The only reason I would maybe say that was she was then legal drinking agent, perhaps.
Way before that.
June the 21st, so just the day after you bought the cell phone, you made a purchase at
I'm sorry, you were saying what, 19th was this girl's?
June 19th was the day she went missing.
What day did I buy that?
June 20th was the day you bought the cell phone. June 21st.
See, I must have declared bankruptcy around then because I got that cell phone in hand, but I had to hand all my items in to the trustee, and I had a Panasonic cell phone, and I got that in. I got the Radio Shack one, so it would have been right around the same time. I don't think I went a month without it. I don't think so. I might have, but anyways, I don't know. It was a while ago, so memory's a bit fuzzy.
Yeah. May the 29th, which was just before that, or about a month before that, that was the day that the police released the cops.
Also, it was May. So I lost a month.
Yeah, so that was,
See what happens when you lock a guy up for 15 years and wins what's up. The memory gets fuzzy. So I guess I waited a month to get the cell phone.
about a month to get the cell phone. Did you recall anything? What were you doing, during that month? Anything?
Probably the same thing as they're going across the border for the recreational stuff. I know Tammy happened in July. That was, I think, the third week in July for the first time. But this was back a few weeks before.
Okay.
It's hard to tell who was the biggest victim of Paul's crimes, but Carla's younger sister, Tammy, truly saw the worst of it. Paul often expressed to Carla that he was unsatisfied because she was not a virgin, something her younger sister could satisfy. Carla agreed to this treacherous sacrifice. The evil couple invited Tammy and doused her with alcohol. They made her inhale anesthetics, and Paul at her while Carla filmed it. The combination of alcohol and anesthetic proved to be fatal, and 15-year-old Tammy was pronounced dead despite calling 911.
Okay, so just prior to Tammy's birthday, there was some shopping at a Canadian Tire store in Shepherd Avenue. Lori's birthday. 2 times in one day, you went to Canadian Tire on Shepherd Avenue, 1019 Shepherd Avenue. Is that normally shop at Canadian Tire stores?
Back then, that's before all these supercenter Walmarts and stuff came in Canada. So.
Do you ever recall having any conversations about the disappearance of Elizabeth Bain?
No.
If I played you, it's going to play you a short audio clip. It's a conversation that you had, or a conversation between Tony Ward, who was an investigator with the Toronto Police, and Carla Homolka. I'm just going to play this, see if this sounds familiar or if it jogs your memory as to any conversation you may have had.
Was there any discussion, or has there been any discussion ever about Bain's disappearance?
I think the only thing that he ever said about her was that her boyfriend did it, or something like that. But there wasn't any real extensive discussion. But he talked about like all of the women that were disappearing.
And again, that was a conversation between investigator Tony Moore with the Toronto Police Service and Carla Homolka. Does that conversation, is that something that you may recall, saying that Carla are talking about that?
Well, you know, she went down and Paul did it. Catchphrase was the trial, Paul did it. It was Paul. And she's continuing right there. She's going, you know, with that. The fact of the matter is I didn't pay attention to anything. I didn't watch the news back then. I was too busy doing other things. I didn't pay attention. Like the profile is a serial killer, pays attention to all the news media. This is narcissistic personality, blah blah blah, and all that crap. I don't know anything about this case now. I don't know if this guy did it. I don't even care. I'm not a prosecutor, you know, do the right thing for society, blah blah blah. I don't know if he did it. I don't have the facts if he knows if he did it, and I certainly didn't know that. So to say that for me to make, she's alleging that I made a statement. The boyfriend did it. Well, you know, some cases I have fault because I am in jail and I have nothing else to do but watch TV. But I weigh the facts. You know, I take, you know, like what did OJ do, for example? You know, you weigh the facts about, you know, whether he did or not, he got off. So, I mean, that's a lot. But I would have had to weigh the facts. I don't know the facts in the circumstances, so there's no way I can make a statement such as that. How could I say he did it if I don't know the facts of the case? So, no, she's incorrect. Her statement.
And it may depend on when that conversation took place between her and the investigator.
Well, War, wasn't he back when the deal was made? You know? And that was War, if I remember reading the transcripts, that was the name from day one. When she signed her 12-year deal, no polygraph required. Hey, I'm giving you the truth there. You guys can prove me wrong. Go down there, ask her. You'll get a no. I keep telling you, no one does it. But I don't know why. But you know, so that sounds like a conversation. But that's what you do. You want to blame it all on the other person. You know, you can paint that scenario. You know, like psychopath scenario.
Do you know Robert Balkovich?
Just see him on you know, the outside flashed on TV or whatever. Like I said, I purposely avoided this case.
Right.
I don't like this. You know what I mean? You know, anything to do. You know, unfortunately, when Carla came out, I watched and tried to discern the truth back between fiction a couple of years ago. But otherwise, you know, I don't like to get into these things. I've had 100 lifetimes full of this stuff. You know, so and I don't want my mind poisoned with this and this and this. So in this case, I avoid it as much as possible. But I have seen this, you know, space.
Right. Anything else you would like to tell us about this investigation?
And yet again, the hopes of the victims' families are crushed when Paul declines to reveal any more details. It was just another desperate move to draw attention. The retrial of the Elizabeth Bain case started on March 31, 2008. Initially, Robert Baltovich had been seen as but after speaking to Paul, the possibility of an alternate suspect became a reality. On April 22, 2008, Baltovich was found not guilty. But Paul faced no charges for this due to the lack of evidence, and the case remains unsolved.